everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm here today to share what I read in December of 2021 with you. I was on a mission in December to reach my 75 books goal on Goodreads, and I ended up getting to 76. So luckily in December I had a lot more time to read than I have for the last year, really, and I was able to get more books read. So I read 3 audiobooks in December. The first one was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. And this book blew my mind. I really loved it. I think the audio narration is great, but it was just the experience of reading a book about pandemics in a pandemic that I think was really profound about it. It also made some things a little bit difficult, but ultimately I loved the flow of this book. It just wove together seamlessly multiple characters, multiple timelines, and I was so impressed with what Emily St. John Mandel did with the plot of this book. Obviously, it is a very different pandemic story to the one that we have been living through for the past 2 years, with a much more dire and apocalyptic feel to it, although many of you would think that it has been very dire and apocalyptic over the last 2 years. But in Station 11, the plot is even more extreme. You know, you either contract the disease and die or you don't. And so 99% of the world is eliminated, and everything collapses at an extreme level, and then you pick up from there. There's also a story within a story in this book, which I don't always like, but I did really like for this one. I just think her characterization is brilliant. I think I think this story deserves all the hype it got. It was amazingly done, and there was nothing about it that I didn't like, other than I felt like, I don't know, it felt like it ended a bit abruptly in some ways, and in some ways I liked the ending. So it was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of, you know, my end feeling regarding the ending, because I could have kept reading that book infinitely because I really loved the characters. And so overall it was a great read. It was a great way to, like, I felt really great that I found a book for December that was that good, you know, and that made my top books of 2021 list, which you'll be able to find in my end of the year wrap up video, where I did list the books that I read this year in 2021 that were my favorites. So yeah, really like Station 11, and I will be definitely reading Emily St. John Mandel's future books. She has one already out, The Glass Hotel, and then there's a new one coming out in 2022, I believe. So yeah, definitely be reading those. Okay, the other audiobook, I read 2 other audiobooks, and they were both Christmas themed. A Christmas Hope by Anne Perry. This is my first Anne Perry, and Anne Perry writes extensively Christmas books, and they're little mysteries, and I guess they're cozy mysteries, I would assume. A Christmas Hope is set in England in Victorian era, and it follows Claudine, I believe was her name, and she's kind of this aristocratic female detective who is trying to prove that an innocent man did not commit murder. And I thought it was charming and entertaining, and I got quite wrapped up in it. And it was a really nice length. It was only a 4-hour audiobook, so it was really enjoyable. And I think I'll definitely visit more of her Christmas fiction next year. Okay, and then the other audiobook that I listened to in December was the Noel Diary by Richard Paul Evans. And this was, I think, my first Richard Paul Evans. I know he's very famous for, I believe, the book called The Christmas Box and some other maybe books. He writes love stories, and I thought that it was very entertaining. And I believe with the Noel books, he also has multiple books in that series, and I think they're all around Christmas. I'm not sure. So in future, when I'm looking for Christmas listens or Christmas reads, I think I will search those out again. But the story is actually very great. It's about a famous author who is estranged from his mother, and he finds out a few weeks before Christmas that his mother has passed away and he has inherited all her belongings. And so he goes back to his hometown and begins sorting through her things. And it's one of those stories where as you're sorting through things come up, you meet people who knew your parent in a different way, and life kind of has a way of unfolding a new path for you when you have to go and revisit your past. So it was a really well done story. Very, very well done. I also read Christmas at Little Beach Street Bakery by Jenny Colgan for my themed Christmas read this year, and that is one author and series that I will not be reading from again. I would say that this book was in the category of contemporary romance fiction, and I don't think that's my genre. I just, everything stays a bit too on the surface for me, and I was hoping for something quite charming, and it just didn't charm me. And I basically read it because it was easy to read and I wanted to see what happened in the end, but I found that it had a bit too much human drama for what it was worth, and it just didn't have a depth to the characters for me that I needed. I needed something a bit more gritty, but not so melodramatic, if that's possible, if that makes sense. So I don't think Jenny Colgan's style of writing or kind of, I'm just not her audience, I don't think, because it seems like her books have this formula that they follow, and I'm not really interested in reading formulaic things. So yeah, I will not be reading any more of her work in future. I finished up my 1970s project with Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown, and I really, really enjoyed that book. It is a queer story. It is a feminist story. It is a story of living your truth, and even if you are being held down in your world and you feel constrained by it, that you can find ways to push and to get through those tight things. The relationship building in the book was excellent. There was some diversity in character, a little bit of terminology that would be problematic probably for some people, in terms of race and just the time period, because this is, I think, was meant to be kind of a coming of age story. So you start off with Molly when she's little. She's like, I think 5 or 6 years old when the story begins, and then you end with her in her mid-20s, as she's, you know, kind of graduating from film school and reconciling her life and kind of coming into her own as a adult. So yeah, it's a really great coming of age story of a queer woman's life, of, you know, not liking titles like and labels, but then coming to terms with the fact that lesbian for her was like the closest word that worked for her and how she self-identified, but she wasn't really interested in being identified and labeled by people. So I thought the perspective was really strong, and I thought the writing was really strong, and the storytelling was really strong in that book. So it has a very modern feel to it, even though it was published in the 1970s. Like, you know that by some of the language it's dated, and obviously the lack of technology that we have now, it's dated, but otherwise it feels very of now. So I would recommend it. I also read a poetry collection, Bright Wings, an illustrated anthology of poems about birds. And it was good. There were a few poems that I liked in it, and the illustrations were nice. And it was nice to kind of read. There's also a little section below each illustration that just talked about each bird, and then the poems were then grouped based on the birds they were talking about. So it was lovely. I wouldn't say it was exceptional. I think maybe when I'm wanting to read poetry, I'm looking for something else to get out of it, but I'm glad that I read it and that I took it out of the library and got to experience this lovely book and the ideas behind it. And then my last read of December for 2021 was Art and Fear, Observations on the Perils and Rewards of Art Making by David Bayles and Ted Orland. And I got this as a Christmas gift, and I picked it up and started reading it right away. So it's interesting because I don't know if I've ever received a book and then read it as quickly as I did with this one. And part of it was the fact that it's not a very long book. It's only 119 pages, and it just kind of fell into my lap at a time when I wasn't really wanting to like start some new novel. I was just more interested in reading in the little snippets of time that I had here and there over the holidays. So this worked out really well. I am going to be rereading this because I read it through. There's so much great stuff in here about things that artists put on ourselves, and these kind of inner assumptions that we hold and use in some ways as excuses, in some ways as evidence that we should be held in a different account than other people for things. It's just got a lot of really great questions and answers and like it says, observations about making art. And I really want to go through it again and annotate the book and kind of pull stuff out of it and delve a little deeper into some of the things that it challenges you on, because I think that, you know, on initial reading I wasn't really ready to like delve into them, but they are things that should be examined within each person who is trying to make anything. I think if you're a writer, visual artist, a performer, like all of those, like any sort of artistic or creative endeavor, I think this will definitely help you and give you some things to put into perspective and challenge maybe some of the inner critic voices in your head, or just give you some context of like what things are from the art world, what things you should discard and not pay attention to. I think this will really help you focus on what's important when you're making art. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. And that, I'm just checking my list here, but I'm pretty sure that was my reading for December of 2021. And on to a new reading year. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again soon with another video.